everybody? Hope you're doing well today. We have our next Cummings cast, episode number 13, lucky number 13, with Mr. Galen Roop. Galen, thank you for joining me. Coming down from
my pleasure.
Coming down from the northwest, from our Westminster office. So Galen, years ago, showed up in my Timonium office pretty much. I don't know. He kind of showed up. Maybe you called me.
Yeah, kind of.
And basically said, hey, if you come to Westminster, if you come to Carroll County, I'll leave my Remax. I'll join you. And I got some other people I think would join you. And at that time, I guess it was like a little bit before COVID or whatever. It was like, wasn't the right time for me.
Pre-COVID. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the right time for me. And I had some other things going on. And then COVID hit and that slowed things up. But, Paul Hudson from who was a previous coworker at Remax joined the brokerage, and Paul said, "Hey, there's this building in downtown Main Street. I think it's a great location." So I moved forward with it. Reached out to Galen, let him know I was moving forward with it, and he spot on was like, "Tell me more. When can we meet? This sounds great." So I appreciate that. He joined. Works with his wife Cindy. Works with Kelly as well. They all take office space up in Westminster, and I've been rock and roll. So Galen, thank you for joining me. That's just a little bit of your background.
Sure.
So how many years in the business at this point?
We're kicking close to 25.
25, okay.
So with Kelly and I combined, we're knocking on the door to 50.
Right. And you look sharp today, too.
Yeah, I got my company colors
I like
on.
That.
Yeah,
I like that.
Thought I'd get it out of the closet.
So 25, long time now with you, but I guess, not that you are a spring chicken and you definitely bring the energy, but what did you do before real estate, I guess?
I've always been in retail. I made some notes this morning to think about when I started.
I like the old school clipboard.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
if you
the
can
old
see
clipboard.
it, but yeah. Joe Sacchetti in our Federal Hill office, he's a clipboard guy as well, too. It looks very professional. It looks like
looks like we're working. That's what one of my first bosses always said. Carry a clipboard with you and a pen. That way people think you're working.
Hey, that's good.
Whether you are or you aren't.
Yeah, I got my little notepad that I always like to keep notes on, too. Just things that pop in my head, I put them down on paper so I don't forget them.
Yeah.
And I can look back to them later.
Yeah, it's good to have.
So prior to real estate, retail?
Yeah, I've been in retail forever. I started with dealing with the public when I was like 12 years old with a paper route. That was my first big retail job.
And so are you born and bred Westminster, downtown Westminster?
Yeah,
you can
pretty
walk
much.
to the office pretty much?
Yeah, I can walk or I ride my bike. It's a great location, and it's right in the heart of town out there. And
you've been there your whole life?
Yeah, we've been there. My family was in Carroll County before it was Carroll County. It was... when they got there, it was 1784. It was Frederick County.
Wow.
And then it turned into Carroll County, became Carroll County in 1837.
Okay.
And then,
so
we've been there a long time. And
you've really traced the history back. You're talking 1700s into 1837.
Yes,
We're going back a few years.
I live about 6 miles from where my family settled out towards New Windsor.
Okay. So been doing real estate for 25 years. Remax most of the time?
Yeah, Remax 12 and then... pretty much Long and Foster for 12.
Okay.
And then
12 there and 12 there.
Yeah.
Both great brokerages.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, I'm sure, from both.
Yeah, they're both good companies, and it was a good run with them, and we're in a much better run right now. We're doing our production's been good. The new office has really been a big help.
Yeah. So I look at you kind of as like the ultimate Westminster sort of networker. So, I guess, what's your sort of like sales volume in units each year?
I don't know if we're around between 30 and 40 units.
30 and 40 units, gotcha. Mm-hmm. And the sales volume for the Carroll County price point, is that give you like a little over 10 million in sales a year?
Every year,
range?
Pretty much.
Gotcha, all right. So, that's a great business that you built up.
Yeah.
So, I guess, tell us a little bit about like what you do and how you've started and what you do to grow the business, and your extreme networking I definitely want to push into.
Well, part of my retail history, as a kid, I worked at the local car dealership, washing cars, and I stayed there and worked a lot of hours. And the new manager that came in sent me off to GM training centers, and where I learned a lot about sales, which was a great foundation to learn the car business is a tough business. But I did that for a long time, almost 20 years. And
so you got some formalized sales training.
Yes.
Any takeaways from that?
Well, I've learned a lot of. That's a hard sale to sell a car when you can buy the same car in any dealership. So that was a great way to learn how to sell things. And the number one thing
people to like you.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off. No.
But the number one thing that I got out of selling and got out of the training from GM training centers, the first thing that they taught you was to listen. So that's a very important part of the sale, is to listen to the customer.
Yeah.
So that's, you don't realize it, but it starts to come natural when you listen and listen and listen, and then you retain that, and people appreciate the fact that you remember what they said. That's a very important thing. But
so you're trying to cater to their needs.
Yes.
Listen
yes.
to what they want to say. Let them get it all out, and then
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
do what they're asking.
And show them that you're concerned for what they
Right.
want.
Yeah.
And I think people really appreciate that. Getting into real estate was something I think I was destined for. My grandfather had his own real estate business
Okay.
in New Windsor. He started it in 1940
Wow.
to until his death in 1960.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine actually found a sign, and I have it in my office, in our Westminster office.
I've seen it.
That was my grandfather. And then his youngest son, who was my uncle, his name was Charles Roop. He was an auctioneer. So
Okay.
I actually went out to auction school in Indiana in the 80s. And I still do auctions. And a lot of the things that I end up doing were kind of like just happened to come into play with me, and it's been good for me, and it wasn't anything that I did deliberately.
Yeah.
So the auction thing, I do the auction for the Carroll County Historical Society every year, and I do auctions for the churches and the schools, and it's just
What type
worked
of
out.
auctions do the churches and schools need?
They do benefit auctions to
Okay.
raise money.
Okay.
So
You're not saying like you're not doing like in front of a house, like this house.
no,
this house.
no.
So you're kind of like an MC
Yeah,
for these different events.
I do these things for people because, number one, there aren't.
This is the extreme networking that I want to talk about with
Yes.
Galen Roop here.
But in my family, there were 5 auctioneers on the Roop side.
Yeah.
And now there's only 2 of us left. But
Okay.
God rest their souls.
Yeah.
But I did that. I've been doing that since the 80s, and that's just really been a blessing for me.
So you're in front of a lot of people at an event,
Yeah,
basically.
the last thing we did,
getting to know you, and then they come up and start talking to you, and then they probably eventually ask you what you do, and then you eventually say, "I'm in real estate."
Yeah, and it just is a great tie-in, and like I said, it wasn't anything that was planned.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. And then so you're one of your things I see you post a lot is like you're sort of like high school class.
That was
What
another.
do you call that? Is that, and then there's the Owls. Is that a different group?
That's our class.
Galen's got so many groups, I feel like.
No, but that was another thing that just came about after one of our class reunions. We had a couple of our class members passed on, and
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, thank you. And I always wanted to get people back together. Before social media, I thought about doing something, and I didn't know how to put it together. And then this came about by
social media helped you.
immensely, because I met up with like 2 of my friends from school at the bakery, which incidentally is out my window from my office. I look at the bakery.
Yeah.
And we met there every Thursday morning. And then we had a couple of people pass from our class after a class reunion, as I said. And I thought, well, we're having so much fun, I should get this out there.
Yeah.
And in a matter of 4 months, we had to leave the bakery because we took up every seat in the bakery. So now it's every Thursday morning at the Panera in Westminster.
Okay.
And there's usually between 25 and 35 people there every Thursday.
And are you the only real estate agent in the group?
I've invited other agents, but usually it seems like I am. But it was all
not about that to you.
No,
I know, but I think it's a great tool.
But it wasn't done for any reason other than to get people back together. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, "What a great networking thing," and I'm like, well, I didn't look at it like that when I came up. When I did it just to get people together.
Yeah, I just always appreciate the creative ideas that end up working for business. And this one you just fell into with not even. So you're just trying to get your high school friends back together that still lived in the area.
Yes.
Get them together. So you just have been posting on social, because I see you post on social, and it's pretty much open to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Not just your high school class.
Just
friends of Galen Roop.
I started having other people call me from other classes.
Okay.
And I'm like, they're asking me if they could join, and I'm like, well, certainly. So I woke up one morning. That's my best thinking is right away in the morning. And I came up and I thought, what can I name it? And so I came up with this idea. And now it's called WHS Owls of All Ages.
Owls of
So
all
that
ages.
covers all classes.
Everybody, yeah.
And then in a couple of weeks, this will be our. This in February. It'll be the third year that this thing started, but June the 8th, we're having a picnic, and this is our third annual. And this year we're expecting between 250 to 300 people.
Wow!
There.
So now you're actually doing like an outside picnic with
Yeah,
spouses
yes.
and family and stuff.
Yeah, I rent a pavilion down at Sandy Mount Park, which
Okay.
is in Finksburg.
So you've organized this whole
Yes.
outside of thing, outside of just the monthly thing. You're now
Yeah.
organized this picnic.
Yes, but it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Everybody brings a lawn chair.
Yeah.
And a cooler for whatever they want to eat and drink.
Sure.
And then it's pretty interesting. It's so cool because under the pavilion there's probably 20 tables.
Okay.
And nobody ever sits down. They get there and they see friends and then they just connect.
Yeah. Right.
And
you're the catalyst that's put all this together.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's been a great networking tool and it helped you get you some referrals because you are probably working hard to answer all their questions and do everything, right?
Well, like I said, it's kind of interesting because that wasn't the intention at all. It was just to do this thing. And somebody said something to me about it one day, and I'm like, I can see how people would think that was the idea, but I'm not smart enough to think of something like that to network myself. But it has actually been kind of interesting because there has been some people that have contacted me about business, and we've done some business from it. So it's been a blessing.
That's only going to snowball at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, a lot of them are maybe set in their spot. Your friends are where they are for the next few years. But when that time comes to move to the next phase, condo, whatever it may be,
yes.
I feel like you're going to be the top of mind guy.
Well, it's kind of cool to have somebody come up and say something. They've been away from Westminster for many years, and now they're retiring, and they've come out to the thing at Panera, and they feel like they want to. It's kind of neat. It's kind of like.
They want to move back to the area
say,
almost?
I'm thinking about moving back.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the neat thing about Westminster, our class in particular, is a lot of them, I've checked, there's like 175 of them that still live within like a 15-mile radius.
Gotcha.
So we still have a lot of class members that are in the area.
So you're finding them on Facebook and trying to connect with them.
Yes, they're showing up.
So you're outreaching to find more people to build to this sort of networking group.
Yes, and
though it's not really a networking group in your mind, but to me it is.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people could maybe use that if they're still living. I feel like I'm blessed to still live right where I live.
Yeah.
We're still on Main Street. When you opened that office, that was just. I just wish it would have happened 15 years ago.
Yeah,
it could have happened a long time ago, but it's been a very, one of the things that I've put in my notes to talk about this morning, I really got energized when I came to work for the company, number one, and then number two, when we took an office, since the pandemic and everybody pulled out of the offices, and to me, I've gotten really... I can say we've gotten much busier because I feel much better. I get up in the morning and head to the office.
Yeah, you're in.
And I feel like I'm there to work.
Yeah.
And I think the home office thing is great, but you can certainly sit around and do laundry and start cutting the grass and start cleaning the gutters and you lose sight of your business. And
everybody's different. I will definitely say, but yes, I've definitely been a coming to the office guy because I'm high ADHD. Get distracted very easily.
Yep.
So some people are more disciplined.
Yeah.
And can do it, but
it's
good to I feel like have the office even for if you're like a home office person. Like I've tried to more so over the last few years make sure that there's enough open office space and even little offices for you to come in and use without having to pay to get in there.
Yes.
To feel like you can come in and have a spot and you're not just disrupting by coming in. So we have lots of space in Westminster for anybody who wants to come in and work in the different open available offices and stuff.
Yeah.
So other things that you've been doing in your business that you like that have worked out successfully for you or any failures?
Well, I checked out the one thing about the failure and I did some things over the years, and interestingly enough, another thing about Cummings, working with the agents that are in and around the area, all over Maryland, everybody's seems to have that experience that it's good to work off of, and Kudos to Kim Pellegrino.
Yeah.
She came up with the round table, and that's been really good, and it's bringing some people into the office.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You guys meet on
yeah, we meet
semi-regular
Mondays and
basis.
Thursdays
Yeah.
and semi-regular whenever, and it's been pretty good because everybody's interjecting and giving up some ideas,
Yeah.
and we're talking about houses that we have on the market or that we have coming.
Yep.
Or I've found that there are a lot of agents now that we're working around that have been very, anxious to do anything to help with doing open houses, and I've never had that experience until I came over to Cummings.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's really good to, sometimes I was afraid to ask people because I knew the answer was no. And now when I'm asking people if they'd like to do an open house or anything at all, everybody is very anxious to help.
Yeah, I
So,
think like we definitely try to have a mentality of the brokerage of like people that want to work
yeah,
and want to
I think
want to
you've hit it.
improve and grow, and I think that sort of like helping each other out sort of gets to build those relationships so that
Uh-huh.
when you need help or you have a question or whatever, it's like if they help you with an open house and then they maybe have a
Oh
question
my
and they want to
gosh.
run a scenario by you, you're like, hey, you helped me with that open house, like yeah, well, how can I help you back?
Yes.
And that sort of just continues in a cycle of growing and helping everybody versus the other direction. If nobody helps anybody, nobody wants to ask for help, like you were
Yes.
saying. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so
I
we have,
found that very good. I mean, it's been very.
yeah. So
Uh,
I always kind of say to people, like, if you're on the private Facebook page and like, somebody asks a question and they've, 8 people have already answered, you don't maybe need to be the number 9. But if somebody asks a question and there's nothing going on, there's goose egg yet, and you know the answer or have a vendor you could refer, if there's nobody else available or no one's jumping on to assist that person, if you can, then hopefully that sort of good karma will come back to you when you need something.
yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's always been a great thing that I do
Yeah.
appreciate and love about the people that I have with me here.
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
I started the thing about the failures or whatever. I'm kind of old school with everything that I do.
you really?
Seems to be
Tease it.
me, but anyway, I've done the mailer thing before, and I've done a lot of print ads, and of course that's old school now. But I never really had a lot of luck with that. I have more. My thing is to be out,
Yeah,
and that's the other thing about the office. It gets you up, gets you out,
yeah.
and I go out and
You're big into your signage as well, though.
yeah,
We've talked about your signage.
yeah.
I mean, you're
Well, I
you
do.
like to make sure the sign is placed
I do
perfectly,
yeah.
properly,
I
clean.
still do my own signs. I dig the holes. I put the posts in.
Yes,
And
look
I
at that.
want them to look good because, quite frankly, when I go by a house where the sign's leaning over, it looks like nobody cares about that.
Yeah,
That's the first impression,
yeah,
and that's a bad impression.
yeah,
And it's just like having pictures in June in the MLN Bright system when there's still snow on the ground.
right.
The detail is very important to this business, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes,
It's like having a clean truck when you go out to do a job. So
right. Yeah, the OCD factor.
yeah, yeah.
So you're hanging your own signs.
Yes,
Yes.
do our own signs, and we like to make sure they're in the right spots.
Yeah.
And we put solar lights on them, and people see them. And I have a lot of agents call me and ask me who does our sign work.
Yeah.
And as soon as I tell them I do it, that's the end of the conversation. They're like, "Oh, thanks. Glad to know that you're doing it." But good exercise.
Yeah.
So,
So the mailers and all that stuff really never, the print ads never really did anything.
not
for
much
you.
for me, but I kind of equate it to fishing. You have to change up your baits and try to catch it
Right.
another way.
So,
So
you do a lot of like this general networking, but do you actually, say, hey, do you have any real estate? Anybody need anything real estate wise? Or do you sort of give them sort of
no.
a pitch at all?
I pitch more people when I'm out, and I've told a lot of agents this over the years too. It's very easy to drum up a conversation with a person if you're out at a Panera or whatever restaurant you're in.
Yeah.
If you're standing in line and you hear, one of the top conversations between anybody, I think, probably if you were to say number one is they certainly like to talk about their houses or they like to talk real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're standing in line with somebody and you just drum up a conversation. If you do it in the right way and you don't sound like you're trying to really get too deep into their business, you just say you live around here, don't you? And then you just go from there. I
Yeah.
mean, they tell you where they live and you say, oh my gosh, we just listed a house over there off of blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, they're going to say to you, their return response would be, Oh, you're in real estate. And then you just take it from there. It's like making a cold call and making it a sale or
Yeah.
making it a contact. Or maybe they're not going to sell their house, but, as I learned in the car business, they have aunts and uncles and brothers and
Right.
sisters. And
So are you handing out like a business card after these conversations when you're
oh,
meeting
yeah.
somebody in a random
Yeah.
Panera line
Yeah,
or
I may
whatever it
act
may be?
like I don't have one, and then I'll go, you know what? Oh, let me check. Maybe I do. And then I go, oh, yeah, I do have one.
Right. You just never know. They may
Yeah.
call you 2 years later or whatever it
Well,
may be.
I've sold a couple of houses out of Panera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you? There you go.
Yeah,
I love
got to make money to pay for your meal. But
it.
but I really think that's a great way if you can learn the approach.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too intrusive and too aggressive, but
Well, then open houses. Do you do open houses and use
yeah, I
use
still
your
do
gift of
some.
gab with the folks at open houses?
Yes.
How do you approach open houses? Have you had success with that?
Yeah, we've had more success with. We do some brokers opens once in a
Okay.
while.
Yeah.
And we do open houses. Of course, this market has been pretty good for us. And if we get into, if we're too long on the market, we're doing something.
Yeah.
We're the one thing about our business, I think, is you need to stay in touch with that client all the time. And, and like I said, with the Cummings and Company, with your company, we certainly have a lot of people that are willing to help. And if you need to do an open house, I've got a couple of people that I've met that are really spot on to get out there, and they really, they've made that something that's where their expertise is.
Right. So you're more of like, hey, I have a listing. I'll give you my open house because I'm okay at them.
Yes.
But I feel like that. But now
Yeah.
your brokers opens you mentioned, and I did come to one of your brokers.
Yes.
I feel like you have sort of the same philosophy as me when it comes to having an event or a party.
Yes.
Is if you're gonna do it right.
Yes.
And make it an event and make it fun. So I came to one of yours. You had
Yeah, thank you.
a harpist, right? Was that?
Yeah, we had a harpist.
We had a harpist. It was a beautiful house in downtown Westminster, fully renovated.
Yes.
Like down to the studs.
Yes.
Old historic house.
Yes,
that seller had put a lot of effort into that property, so I felt like you tried to match his effort with your broker's
Yes.
open. So that there was a harpist there, there
Yes.
was people from government officials were there.
Yeah, we had the commissioners there, some
and-
city council people,
Yup, and lots of other agents,
insurance
from
people.
agents from other companies. Met
Yes.
a few different folks that day from Remax and Long Fosters that you had worked with
Yes.
and stuff. So lots of good food.
Lots of support.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have lots of food, and um, that to me, there's a couple of things that come out of that. It's good for your exposure, and it's good for other people to see it.
Right.
When they
And-
see that, they're like, I want this person to take care of my property for
Yeah.
me. But we try to really work hard on that. It does take a lot of work, and I like the challenge, and I like to make sure. I think we ordered food that day for 125 people. And after my daughter was there, and one of my wife's friends, and my wife and Kelly, and we had a nice turnout, but we had more food than we needed that day. So,
yes, you did.
so my daughter said, let's take it to, we had all that food left over, so we took it out to one of the place for people that need food.
Gotcha.
So we gave that food to those folks.
That's
but
good.
We were about 25 to 35 people as far as under what we thought we would have, but a lot of people I think had eaten before they had gotten there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's definitely successful. I mean, it was very well put together.
Oh,
event.
thanks. Yeah, but we like doing that, and we'll do that for no matter what type of house it is.
Yeah.
If that's what they want, that's the thing I think is to give your customer whatever they want.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of house it is.
From your 25 years, any words of wisdom to everybody out there right now in this sort of tough, low inventory, high interest rate market that we're still in here?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, the best laid plan is to get up and go every day and just keep on giving it everything you have. And, this business, I think number one, you have to love the business, and it's a good business to be in. If you love it, you can just, it doesn't matter how many hours you work a day.
Yeah.
It's very rewarding, and I think as far as having a career, I don't know, it's one of the careers where the sky's the limit with what you can make.
Yeah.
If you're willing to put in the efforts, and I think, like I said, the thing since the pandemic, I think that certainly made a big change in our business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have, once again, I don't want to beat beat on it too hard, but coming into the office, like I said, the thing that Kim came up, started the round table.
Yeah.
And we're meeting new people, and we're networking.
Yeah, it's really just getting out there is like your big
get
thing.
out there.
I feel like everybody has something that they can do to sort of differentiate themselves from a different agent and like how to grow their business. I feel like yours was sort of bringing your high school friends all back together, which other people could do at other locations, and that may work for them. But there's something out there, I feel like, for everybody, and just figuring out what that creative thing is.
Yes.
That is like your niche, you know what I mean? And then you find your
Absolutely.
niche and you just exploit it. And you still keep other things in the background that are working going, but I feel like you've really are, going to do very well with your sphere right now because you have them so connected.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're going to be very loyal to you because of like everything you've sort of done the whole, give to then eventually get back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've really been impressed on that. Any fun facts or anything we should know about? Any like books you read? I mean, I feel like you've lived a long and interesting life, Galen. I feel like there's some.
Well, I have to say, I tell people I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because, in between, I had that in my little spiel here, but over the years I've done different things, but they've all been fun things.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my mom sold real estate for O'Connor, Piper, and Flynn.
Yeah.
Up until 95 when she passed. And so I think I was destined to get into real estate. And they say, you can search. A lot of people search for a long time. I guess I was supposed to end up in the real estate business, but I did a lot of cool things on my way. But they were all related to having fun with people.
Yeah.
Working with people.
If it wasn't pouring down rain today outside, Galen and I were going to ride our longboard skateboards around the parking lot, but we both sort of, I think, saw the rain today and totally forgot about that. But,
it will happen.
But Galen, he's got his old school bike that's like, I feel like from like the 1970s with like the big like banana seat that he sent me a picture of that outside the office one time parked.
Yeah,
the old Schwinn.
Yeah, I got a Schwinn.
Guys, got his longboard skateboard. He's longboard skateboards around
still
town.
Surf.
I'm still trying to surf. So
well, that's good. I should be. My son has my surfboard.
So, yes, your energy, just eludes off everybody. I feel like it gives me energy when I talk to you because you're always so like, trying to have a good time, positive, focused. It just you have a great mindset, and I just think that sort of when you have that. Every day is not a great day in real estate. There's so many frustrating things that we're all dealing with all the time in the business, outside the business, in our personal life, whatever it may be. Somebody hits your car. There's a lot of frustrating things. Like life's not easy, but you kind of never talk to you when I'm sure things are going not so great. You're always in a positive mood, and
I try to be.
You're always up, and that's a great like sort of mindset because that sort of helps with your clients and everything that you elude that sort of positivity and confidence. Yeah. And that hopefully, gives them the confidence to say, okay, like Galen's got this. I trust Galen. He'll get the job done. So I think that's a big part of your success.
Yeah. Thanks.
I appreciate you being here today.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Any last words? I feel like I just cut you off there almost.
No, well, what you were saying about good days and bad days and fortunately we all have good days and we have bad days, but that's something that I think in our business, I think it's something important to remember with everybody that we work with and we're working around, that everybody has good days and bad days. And I try to stay on a positive note and keep a very positive attitude. And I don't like to complain, and I really don't have any reason to complain, which is a blessing.
I thank you for coming all the way to Westminster down in the basement of Perry Hall here. So
my pleasure.
All right, Galen Roop, guys, if you got any questions for him or want to talk to him about anything, you can find him on our website. I'm sure we'll be more than happy to chit-chat with you. Galen, thank you again for your time.
Thank you
for coming here. Be careful getting home. All right, guys, episode 12. Again, we're on Spotify as well now. Appreciate you, and that's it.